Well, that's Franklin County. Well, I grew up in Apalachicola in the time of Elvis Presley and President Kennedy. Have you heard of them?
Yes.
That was a long time ago. Man, I was in love with Elvis Presley. Let me tell you, there wasn't ever anything like him before that. And I used to get chill bumps on me when I'd see him, like in Jailhouse Rock. And he'd do his legs like this, and he'd sing, and oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, there was never anything that even the Beatles couldn't beat that. Even Justin Bieber couldn't beat that. Nothing ever so good as Elvis Presley. But those days are long gone. I cried when he died.
Everybody cried when Elvis died. What Granny tells me.
Oh yeah. It wasn't a soul probably in the whole world who didn't know who Elvis Presley was. In China and Vietnam, everywhere. I'm going to tell you who I am. This is me right there, Dawn Evans Radford. This is a book I wrote. I really set in Apalachicola, but I called it Oyster Flats. Because my first love when I lived here was oysters. Can't eat them as much anymore, but about once a month I'll eat some oysters. Right out of the shell, but I'll eat them any way you can. My mama could fix them. She could fix shrimp, any kind of fish. And when we didn't have anything else to do, we'd go pick blackberries out in the bushes and eat those. So we'd climb the loquat trees and eat the, you know what the Japanese plums are?
Yeah, I have a bunch
They're
of
the biggest kind.
Oh, I love Japanese plums.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love them too. There's nothing better than this.
Who likes oysters? Everybody. Everybody. Well, when I was a kid, when I was your age, this was the place for oysters in Florida. Apalachicola produced about 90% of the oysters for the whole state. And we're not talking little teeny little insignificant things either. We're talking big, juicy oysters that you almost sometimes are so big you almost have to cut them in two to get them in your mouth. Now I miss those days. And were they good? They weren't too salty. They were sweet because they came out of that bay. And when I was your age, there wasn't such a thing as Sykes Cut, which is that little passage between the two islands out here, goes out to the Gulf. The shrimpermen used to have to go out that way and go out West Pass, or go out this way and go out East Pass. There wasn't a Sykes Cut in the middle. But St. George Island was one long island. Now it's actually two, St. George and Little St. George. But what I hated about that is when they put that cut in, they destroyed these huge oyster beds in the bay that fed Florida oysters and had oysters. And people in New York knew who they were. They paid big prices for our oysters because they were so good. But our best oyster beds were killed because of that. Because when the tides change and you get too much salt water in or too much fresh water in or too much current, your beds die. And we could get those beds back if we would close up that cut, but I don't think
Ashton Nicole Carey to check out. Ashton Nicole Carey.
so.
Okay, well, that's funny and see if
Yeah, I hope you can fix it. My people were lighthouse keepers. My grandfather came here in 1935 to tend the lighthouse out at Cape San Blas, and this is what the lighthouse looked like. He was a lighthouse keeper. He kept the light going all night long. And if you ever go to Port St. Joe now, they moved that lighthouse down into a park in Port St. Joe. And you can see it when you come around the curve. Did ya? Good for you. Good. My mama used to, when my mama was about 9 years old, she used to climb that thing and take kerosene to my grandfather who took care of it. She would have to take big things of kerosene because it wasn't an elevator. And it was like big cans, heavy cans of kerosene. She would take up to inside this little pipe-looking thing. It's got steps in it. You been up there? You've been on those steps.
Y'all at the age bigger than the other class. Well, y'all need to keep records a little bit of your family and find out as much as you can to see if you can get some paper, what you call it?
A diary,
A diary, scrapbook. And you can take pictures. If it's paper pictures, then you can put them in it where you can save it and stuff. Kind of keep some history in your lifetime as you grow. Even as family always takes the kids and line them against a certain wall, makes a mark, put a date on the side. But nowadays, now you got modern technology, y'all got all the equipment to do it easier than what they used to have to do it. And y'all got these computers, discs, and USB ports where you can save stuff. So as young as you are now, you get started. When you get older, you'll see what you the past.
JJ, Chloe, and Harmony to check out. JJ, Chloe, and Harmony.
So even going through
JJ,
Eastpoint, taking a
Chloe,
picture of a store. Later in life, you look at that place where that store was at, and it might be a different building, and this and that, and it'd be something history. Key. And but I started with my kids. Well, even when I was in school, I was the type of person always took a camera most of the time and took pictures when we went off on field trips and stuff. When I visited some of my family members, and I took pictures. And I've lost a lot of pictures. But since you're in the modern age, what I've done this past year, I went and scanned everything I had, and I put them on disc. And I also made enough to hand out to my brothers and sisters. And even my sister brought pictures where I scanned them. So y'all can do that too. And start your own scrapbook and diary and stuff. Where later on in life, you'll look at it and you'll be glad you done it. You know how mom and daddy's always too busy, they're working. So that's y'all's job. And that's the way it was in my household. And there's a lot of changes in Eastpoint that's happened in my lifetime. Like right here is the Apalachicola Bridge. There was two bridges. And this was one bridge. I even got on the internet not long ago and found a website where it showed the old ferry boat that went to Appalachia.
How long ago was the ferry boat in use, do you know, sir?
Evidently way before my time, but I guess in the 18th century. All the way up to the first bridge in the, was it in the 1900s sometime?
Wasn't it like 1920s?
Was it the 20s?
I think. I'm pretty sure.
I think he's taking a
I'm pretty sure, because my grandmother was born in 1922,
Right.
and she can remember taking the ferry because her mother was scared of the bridge.
Right. Miss Precious Crumb, she was one of the first ones, I think, went across the bridge. Is that who you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about Miss Maddie Voss.
I got
Yeah, Maddie and Neil Voss. He mullet fished.
you. Yep. And, but there's a lot of history. Even right now, you think, well, this ain't history, but it is. Later on, if you'll remember things. And just like me, when I went to school here, I went 5th grade and 6th grade, and the first week, we couldn't even eat lunch. We had to go home early because the lunchroom wasn't through yet.
Huh.
I remember that. And there at one time, we had panthers out back. And that's been years ago. But anything that you can find in the newspaper, you know, scrapbooks, now with the modern generation, you can cut it out, articles and stuff, and save it. Or you can just take your camera and take a picture of it and save the pictures. And also tape the writing, you know, take a picture of this. This is just a small few things I brought, but I had a big box full of stuff. And I noticed if you don't do it, there's nobody else gonna do it. Something that you do right now might be valuable later on. I seen in Yahoo today where somebody found, what's his name, Vince Lombardo's shirt. He got it for just pennies. Now he's got $20,000, I think.
Never know.
That's worth it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But even
picture that I had a cane in my hand. Now, he made that cane out of a 50 caliber machine gun bullet and sent it to me just as a gesture for me serving in World War II.
Dad, if you want to sit down or whatever. But why don't you start out, I was telling them a little bit about the fact that you're from here,
Yeah.
and they want to know about what it was like with you growing up around here. Right up there on Highway 98. Well, no, not really.
Yeah, I was born and raised partly at Eastpoint. My first year of school, I started in Carabel. We lived in Carabel for a short time. That was in 1931. I was 6 years old. I started to school. And my mother tells me, yes.
Check out.
She said that she took me to
Riley is
school.
wearing the jacket.
My first day of school, I didn't want to go. So she took me to school and left me with the teacher. And when she got home, she said I was sitting on her front porch waiting for her when she got there. I beat her back home. But anyway, she took me to school and I stayed for the next 12 years. But I just went to school first semester there, then moved back to Eastpoint. The rest of my 12 years, I rode a school bus from Eastpoint to Carabel every year till I graduated in 1942. I just want to tell you a little bit about the history of Eastpoint as far as I know it. Eastpoint, as you know it now, is not where it was when I was born and spent my early childhood years. Eastpoint was down on the end of the point where the bridge starts to go to the island. At the foot of that bridge, there was a fishing village in there and houses to the north of it, but they're all facing the bay. There was nothing on Highway 98. The 1929 hurricane washed a lot of the houses away from down on the point. We call it down on the point. We call it the point. It's down next to the bridge. In 1940, my father and one of my uncles, they built the first two fish houses on Highway 98, which is the main part of Eastpoint. We still live down on toward the point. They built the first two fish houses there, and the rest of it spread out to where it is now. But up to 1940, there was nothing on 98, one house down there. So Eastpoint has changed quite a bit over the years. I remember very distinctly, long before the bridge was built to go to St. John, to Apalachicola.